If you want to consistently win at sales, then you've got to be strategic with your approach. It's not good enough to just randomly be connecting with prospects and hoping that they're going to buy from you. You need to implement step-by-step systems that allow you to find and close business like clockwork. And that is where the 3 sales strategies that I'm going to cover in this video come right in. Okay, so this first sales strategy is designed to rapidly improve your prospecting efforts. And it's deadly simple. For every prospecting activity that you do, ask yourself if you're sending the right message to the right person at the right time. If not, then don't send it. This simple framework forces spammy sellers to stop spamming and encourages the sellers who share way too much information that puts off their buyers to pull back a little bit. And when I'm coaching my students over at Salesman.com Academy on prospecting specifically, I find that most of the issues that they face come down to the fact that the salesperson isn't sending a message that's going to leave a prospect in a position where they're excited to jump on a call with you, which is the goal. We want the prospect to be excited about working with us. Next, they're not connecting with a real decision maker that can actually move a deal forward. And finally, they are communicating with this person, maybe even the wrong person, at a point in the buyer's journey where the prospect doesn't have enough urgency to get the deal done. So you must critique every single step of your sales prospecting cadence against the criteria of right message, right person, right time. And when you do this, I guarantee your meeting booking conversion rate is going to skyrocket. Which leads me on to the next sales strategy of understanding this idea of the buying temperature. Now, understanding the required buying temperature for your prospects to commit to getting started, to getting a deal done, is integral to your sales success. You need to know this. And if you're unfamiliar with this concept, think of your sales process as needing a certain level of temperature put into the system before it hits a specific activation energy. And when the buyer hits this activation energy, deals happen naturally, organically, fluidly. Your goal as a seller is to increase the buying temperature with every single interaction that you have with the prospect. Every time you send a crappy email like, hey, not heard from you from a while, just checking in. Well, nonsense like that reduces the buying temperature over time. Alternatively, every time that you share an insight, you build a little bit of trust, you create some curiosity in the fact that your product is likely to help the prospect solve a painful problem, you increase the buying temperature. And obviously that's what we're here for, right? Because as the temperature in the system increases, you go from the prospect thinking every time that they engage with you, I just don't friggin' care, stop communicating with me. Then you get to a point of, okay, I'm kind of interested in this, until eventually you get to a point when you reach the activation energy where the buyer goes, okay, let's do this. I'm happy and ready to move forward. And it's only at that point that the prospect commits to becoming a customer. So the sooner you can help the prospect make that psychological shift from prospect to buyer, the shorter your deal cycles are going to be, and it's going to be way easier to increase the size of these deals as well. So remember to ask yourself, for everything that you do throughout the entirety of the sales process, whether that be a demo, whether that be prospecting outreach, whether that be the final closing meeting, whatever it is, ask yourself the question, is this going to increase or decrease the prospect buying temperature? And that leads us into our third and final strategy. This strategy is how you practically increase your prospect's buying temperature by leveraging what we call the curiosity loop. Leveraging the curiosity loop is absolutely essential when you're trying to book your first meeting with a buyer, and also when you're trying to get a deal over the line as well. When you implement the curiosity loop, you're going to eliminate the risk of oversharing, overcoaching, and even over-delivering on free consultation when you're engaging with your prospects. And this is a trap that loads and loads of sellers fall into. Most sellers try to explain the problem that they solve to their prospects, but then they start to explain how they solve it in the rest of their communications with the buyer. This leaves the buyer with a feeling that now they know how the solution is implemented, how the problem is solved, they might be able to just go and do it themselves. Of course, we know in the reality that we all live in that 9 times out of 10, the buyer never solves the problem, even if they know how to, and they continue on living in pain. But it's this psychological phenomenon where the buyer knows the how, or they think they know the how, because the seller has over-explained that part of the process, that leads the buying temperature to drop, urgency to disappear from the deal, and things to get stuck. So, a much better way to increase buying temperature whilst keeping the attention of your prospects is to open what's called a curiosity loop, and then you only close it when the buyer agrees to jump on the next meeting or the next step of the sales process with you. So let me put this into a business example for you. So let's say that in your cold outreach, you explain that you hypothesize that the buyer has a problem. You share that you might just be able to solve this painful issue for the buyer as well. But rather than tell the prospect how to solve the problem, you ask them to jump on a quick call to see if you might be a good fit to work together. So if you have set the correct hypothesis of pain, which is the right message, to someone who has that specific pain, which is the right person, at a moment where they have the budget to resolve the issue and they have the power to make that final purchasing decision, which is the right timing, so message, person, timing, then when that prospect gets this perfectly crafted message, they would be crazy not to jump on a quick call with you. Humans, all humans are naturally curious. And when you can pique it by using the curiosity loop to explain the hypothesis of a problem you think they have, send it to the right person with the right message at the right time, and don't tell them how they're going to resolve that problem themselves, you're going to pique their interest. And the logical next step to solving that issue that you've highlighted for them is to jump on your calendar. And when you get this right, and I've seen so many people go through Salesman.com Academy now who nailed this succinct series of sales strategies, when you get this right, your calendar is going to be absolutely flooded with new meetings week in, week out. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling simple.